Have you ever had a boss who was just terrible? Like, the kind of person who makes you dread Monday morning, the kind who takes credit for your work, throws you under the bus, or just makes every single day feel like a slow walk through quicksand? You're not alone. A Gallup study found that 50% of employees have left a job specifically to get away from their manager. That's not a bad manager problem. That's an epidemic. And here's the part that will make your head spin. Most of these managers don't get fired, they get promoted. They get bigger offices and bigger bonuses, while good people like you walk out the door wondering, how is this person still here? It doesn't make sense, right? If a manager is toxic, if they're driving away talent, if they're killing morale, why does the company keep them around? Why do bad managers last so long? Let me tell you the truth. It's going to make you angry, but it's also going to make you a lot smarter about how the corporate world actually works. The performance myth. Here's what most people believe. They think companies promote people based on performance. The best worker becomes the manager. The smartest person in the room becomes the boss. That's the myth. The reality? Companies promote people based on one thing: how well they play the game. Let me explain. Imagine two employees. One is brilliant. They do their work faster and better than anyone else. They're the one who stays late, fixes problems, and saves projects from disaster. They're a technical wizard. The other is fine. They do decent work, nothing special, but they're excellent at one thing: making themselves look good. They speak up in meetings, they use fancy buzzwords, they send emails at 11 p.m. just to look dedicated. They volunteer for projects that get visibility. They make sure the boss knows exactly what they're doing at all times. Who gets promoted? If you said the second one, you're right. Here's the data to back this up. A study by the Corporate Executive Board found that only 15% of managers are actually high performing. The rest? They're either average or actively bad. But here's the kicker. Those same average and bad managers are often the ones who get promoted faster. Why? Because companies don't promote based on how good you are at your job. They promote based on how good you are at getting promoted. Think about that for a second. The people who are most skilled at managing up, at impressing their own bosses, are the ones who rise, even if they're terrible at managing down. The Peter Principle. There's a famous idea called the Peter Principle. It was introduced back in 1969, and it goes like this. Employees get promoted until they reach their level of incompetence. Let's break that down. You start as a great salesperson, you exceed your targets, so the company promotes you to sales manager. Suddenly, your job isn't selling anymore. Your job is managing other sellers. You have to handle schedules, conflicts, performance reviews, training, budgets, meetings. You suck at it. You've never managed people before. You don't know how to lead, how to motivate, how to handle difficult conversations. But you're the manager now, and you know what? As long as you're not a complete disaster, you're going to stay manager. This is how bad managers get stuck. They get promoted for being good at their old job, they fail at their new job, and then they just stay, year after year, like a barnacle on a ship. And here's the truly painful part. The people who suffer most aren't the bad managers. It's the people under them. The cost of a bad manager. Let's talk about the price tag, because bad managers don't just make people unhappy, they cost companies a fortune. Gallup estimates that bad management costs U.S. businesses up to $960 billion every single year. That's nearly $1 trillion, with a T. How does that break down? First, there's turnover. When a good employee leaves because of a bad manager, the company loses anywhere from 6 to 9 months of that employee's salary just to replace them. Recruitment costs, training costs, lost productivity. Second, there's engagement. According to Gallup, only 23% of employees worldwide are actively engaged at work. The rest are either quiet quitting or actively disengaged. Guess what drives engagement more than anything else? The manager. If you have a good manager, you're way more likely to be engaged. If you have a bad manager, you're way more likely to be checking job listings during your lunch break. Third, there's productivity. A study found that bad managers can cut team productivity by as much as 25%. And yet, the bad manager stays. Why companies keep them? So why don't companies just fire bad managers? It seems obvious, right? If someone is costing the company that much money, get rid of them. But it's not that simple. Reason 1, firing is expensive. Firing a manager is messy. There are legal risks. There are severance packages. There's the cost of finding a replacement, which can take months. Companies are often willing to tolerate a bad manager rather than pay the price to remove them. Reason 2, nobody wants to admit they made a mistake. This is the ego problem. Somebody hired this manager. Somebody promoted this manager. Probably multiple somebodies. If the company fires the manager, those people have to admit they made a bad call. And in corporate culture, that's a career risk. It's easier to just keep the manager, move them sideways, give them a different opportunity, avoid the awkward conversation. Reason 3, managers protect their own. Here's something you need to understand about the corporate world. Bad managers don't exist in a vacuum. They have friends, they have mentors, they have networks. When a bad manager is about to get exposed, they use those connections. They get warnings, they get cover stories, they get transferred to another department before the damage is discovered. What good employees do? So what do good employees do when they have a bad manager? Option 1, they suffer in silence. A lot of people do this. They stay, they grin and bear it. They hope things will get better. They don't. They never do. The bad manager doesn't change. The toxic culture doesn't improve. The employee just gets more miserable until they finally snap. Option 2, they leave. This is the most common outcome. Good employees quit. They find a new job. They move on. But here's the tragedy. The bad manager stays. The bad manager gets promoted. The bad manager goes on to ruin more lives. Option 3, they fight back. This is the riskiest option. Some employees go to HR. They file complaints. They try to expose the bad manager. And what happens? Usually, nothing. The HR person takes notes. They nod sympathetically. They promise to look into it. And then they go and warn the manager, because HR protects the company, and the manager is usually considered more valuable than the employee, so the whistleblower gets targeted. The good news. Now, I know this all sounds pretty grim, but here's the good news. Understanding how the game works is the first step to winning it. If you know that promotions are about politics, you can play the political game, build relationships, get visibility, make sure the right people know your name. If you know that HR won't save you, you can stop expecting them to. Find other ways to protect yourself. Document everything. The real takeaway. So let me leave you with this. You don't have to be part of that system. You can choose to be different.